In 2007, I got acquainted with a British business reality TV show. It's called Dragon's Den. Now, I think there's a Nigerian version of it, but I think it started in the UK. And what you had is that for those who are unfamiliar, you have budding entrepreneurs that are put in the same place with investors, multi-million-dollar investors, who are called dragons. And so those those entrepreneurs come with business ideas, and the whole aim is if they're able to convince the investors, the dragons, they will give them the money that they ask for a stake in their business. And so you have people that had very good ideas, and quite often they would leave with something. You have people that had terrible, crazy ideas, and they would leave with nothing. But you also had some odd people that you're not really sure where to place them. So for instance, there was a guy called Levi Roots. Levi Roots came in to make his pitch. It was a silky pitch. I mean, the guy, he had a business for a barbecue sauce. He called it reggae sauce. How do you think he entered? He entered with a guitar, right? He was strumming his guitar. He was singing his pitch as he was coming up the staircase. The whole motivation for his business, he sang it in with that guitar. By this time, the 5 dragons were already, enchanted with him. He had already, brought the temperature down in the place. And then he started talking, and you could see he was a charismatic figure, but not the kind of charismatic figure that is always shouting, cracks the same joke 5 times and kills the audience. No, he wasn't too forward. He was somehow disarming, but at the same time, you just liked the aura that he brought. So far, so good. And so they get into some of the numbers and get into how he was doing, and that is where everything changed. All of a sudden, the temperature went back up, right? His math was really bad. He was, somehow music and science don't come together. The guy started sweating, right? It was so bad that he thought he had an order. He even came with the paper. And the order that he said that he made, that the people had made, he had overthought it by a factor of 1,000. What I mean by that is that if somebody said, I'm going to buy 500 liters of milk, that was the order. He thought it was 500,000 liters. It was very bad. Immediately, 3 dragons pulled out. And when everything was coming to an end, don't forget that Jamaicans are somehow connected to Nigerians, right? The god of the hustle came for him, right? Somehow everything started to turn around. And 2 of the dragons eventually decided to, in their own words, take a huge gamble on him. They brought 25,000 together, and they signed the deal, and that's how he left. Now, Levi Roots is probably the most successful story from Dragon's Den's history, at least certainly in the UK. Probably, I don't know, well, maybe all around. Right now, I hear his estimate net worth is probably around $60 million. So it proved to be a success story, I would say. 50,000, 60. But I will never forget something I noticed from that episode. It taught me a lesson that I still hold on to till today, and I try to teach others, and I'm going to tell you what that lesson is. Very simple. Investors mainly invest in people, not ideas. Investors mainly invest in people, not ideas. So guess what? Invest in yourself. You see, the sad reality of things, as we think about what it means to work in a tough terrain like Lagos, the sad reality of this is that most people aren't investing in their most critical asset, the most critical asset to their business or to their career advancement. What is that asset? Themselves. The truth is, if you don't constantly develop as a person, you will not distinguish yourself among the crowd. You know how many people are looking for jobs in this Lagos? And what's interesting is not that we only have to listen to the market and what the market is saying. That is what the Bible teaches us, particularly here in the book of Proverbs that we have been looking at. You see, the book of Proverbs, as we've said in the previous 2 sermons, is a book that provides us with principles that, in general and all things being equal, enable us to flourish in God's world. Enable us to flourish in God's world, particularly in tough terrains. It doesn't offer us promises, but it offers us principles that, in general and all things being equal, work. And it's to that end that it also tells us that we have to constantly improve ourselves. If we do so, that we will thrive in our work in the way God intended. And so that's why we titled this sermon, Personal Development and Self-Discipline. And the prayer is that at the end of it, we will feel equipped to do the hard and rewarding job of improving ourselves so that we can serve God and others better in what He has called us to do. All right, so with that, let's jump in. I do have a few things to say today, so bear with me. We are looking at personal development and self-discipline under three headings: the task of self-improvement, the foundation for self-improvement, and the freedom for self-improvement. Task of self-improvement, the foundation of self-improvement, and the freedom of self-improvement. Let's start with the first one, the task of self-improvement. Quick story about the children of Israel. The children of Israel, after they had been in slavery in Egypt, God said He was going to take them to a promised land, their own land. Now, they were going to go through a number of processes. So the first one was, well, we need to get out, exit Egypt. Second was that they got to the Red Sea, God parted the Red Sea, and God put Pharaoh's people, He drowned Pharaoh's people there. All right, no, so far, not bad. Then God brings them to a mountain, a wilderness mountain called Sinai. He gives them the 10 Commandments and then makes a covenant with them. Now, in all these ways, they are being distinguished as God's people. He has shown His power among them. Now He's made a covenant with them. But God said there's still one more thing that is needed for you, for people to truly know that you are my people. And what is that? I need to come and dwell among you. So God said, build a sanctuary for me so that I can dwell among you. Now, the pattern for the building of that sanctuary, God gave to His prophet, Moses. But the contract to actually build that sanctuary, God didn't give to Moses. He gave to a guy called Bezalel and an assistant called Oholiab. And when God gave them that contract, what did God do? Exodus chapter 35, verse 30. Then Moses said to the Israelites, see, Yahweh has chosen Bezalel of the tribe of Judah and has filled him with the Spirit of God, with wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, and, notice, all kinds of skills. Now, they weren't going to do this work alone, so God had also told them to get some other people. And so at this point in Exodus 36, verse 2, Moses summoned him and Oholiab, his assistant, and this is what he says. Then Moses summoned Bezalel and Oholiab and every skilled person to whom the Lord Yahweh had given ability and who was willing to come and do the work. He brought people to come and do what? The work. Now, we have, as many people will tell you, you don't have to be a statistician or what have you. We have a big problem in this city. It's a problem of unemployment. There are so many unemployed people in this city. Am I right? And in this country. It's a huge problem. But there's another underlying problem that is connected to that many people don't talk about. Is employers that if you gather them into a room, they will tell you. Is this, that while we have the problem of the unemployed, we have a deeper problem of the unemployable. That there are jobs, but many times you don't have the people to be able to fill in those jobs. People hire people after 3 months. After a while, they say, oh, you just have to go. You are not able to do this work. So how do we distinguish ourselves as make ourselves the kind of people, whether it is to come and be employed or to be able to do a business in a way that is distinguished? I'll tell you, very simple. How did those people, what was given to the people, to Moses, to Oholiab and Bezalel and the people that were going to do the work? It tells you there, skill. Skill. You need to be more skillful to distinguish yourself or your business at work. You need to be more skillful. There was the first place I worked in, almost 20 years now. Second. So second place. There was a man that had a very bad attitude. He had a bad attitude. He was in the sales department, right? He had a bad attitude. He was, salespeople, they are never really very truthful. The problem is that he didn't know when he was dealing with the people outside. He was also doing it for us inside. So he was very sneaky. He wasn't very truthful. So people used to complain about him a lot. Now, I think I was at this point, the executive assistant to the MD. So some of those responsibilities of talking to the people fell on me. And sometimes I talked to the MD. Guess what the MD and I knew about this guy? Guess what we knew? We knew that he had a bad attitude. He did. He really did. Guess what never came to our mind? To fire him. We weren't going to fire him. Do you know why? Because 90% of the sales came from that guy. You understand? So, this guy, he did this. Yeah. It's true. It's true. It's true. It's so bad. He's not going anywhere. If you continue to is it that you don't have any, don't you have shock absorber? We'll fire you. With all your good attitude, it's not doing anything. Do you understand what 90% of sales is? I have never seen in a place where it was so easy in the organization to fire somebody who had a very bad attitude. Good attitude. Sorry. What am I saying? I have never seen in a place where it was very easy in an organization for them to fire somebody who had wonderful skills even though they had a bad attitude. It's always very difficult. Not that they can't be fired. Sometimes they really have to. Maybe after they've slapped the MD. And if they have very good attitude, the MD may say, Jesus said that if you slap the first chick, you could go to the other chick. Because it's like, this slap, what's there? Look at the profit and loss sheets, Have you never had a supplier, a client, that is just so difficult to let them go? We need to distinguish ourselves. It was the skill that enabled them to come and do the work. Now, I don't want to notice what Proverbs 22 verse 29 says. It says, do you see someone skilled in their work? Let me tell you what they will do. They will serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of low rank. The skill leads to them serving. The skill leads to them working. And this is where you must make a very big distinction between skill and gifts. Because notice in Proverbs 18 verse 16. Is it 18 verse 16? Yep. Proverbs 18 verse 16. It says this. A gift opens the way and ushers the giver into the presence of the great. What a gift does for you is that it opens the way. But it is skill that gets you staying in the way. If I may put it another way, a gift gets you noticeable, but skill gets you hired. A gift may give you an interview, but it is the skill that gives you the job. The gift may put you on probation, but it's your skill that will give you confirmation. Am I talking to someone? Maybe I can explain with a little bit of, let's do small theology here. When you think about what it means to be a Christian, when you become a Christian, this is what the Bible teaches us, right? That when you put your faith in Christ, the Holy Spirit is given to you. Now, that Holy Spirit that is given to you the first thing it does is he gives you new life. He gives birth to you again. Now, that giving birth to you again is the real thing. That is, you are literally created as a new human being. That's why it says, if any man is in Christ, what? He's a new creation, a new humanity. Now, that Holy Spirit that gave birth to you again is now with you. Do you know what he does? According to 1 Corinthians 12, 7 and 11, he gives you gifts. He distributes gifts to the different born-again people as he wills for one purpose, to serve the common good of the church. The church is those other people who are also part of the new creation. Are we together? Now, he gives you to serve the church. 1 Peter 4:10 then tells us the fact that you have gift doesn't mean that you are going to serve. 1 Peter 4:10 says, each of you should use whatever gift you have received. You've received gifts, but then you can receive and not use it. So it says, use it to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. In other words, the people that are valuable in church are not the people that sit on their gifts. They are the people that we have seen the gifts actually being skillfully deployed. If you are not using your gift, then there is no value that you have to us. Therefore, we will not seek after you. It is the skillful deployment of the gift that makes you useful and make people seek after you. Now, let's take that. If that was all about the new creation is doing it according to the pattern of the old creation. What is the old creation? They gave birth to you. When they gave birth to you, God gave you talents. And he doesn't give you the talents that he gave some other people. Are you with me? It is the usage, the skillful usage of that talent that makes you sought after. If you don't use it, it is more or less useless. In other words, it is your skill that distinguishes you, not just the gift. It is the usage of the skill that distinguishes you. So what should we be doing? We should aim to transform our gifts into skills. So how do you move your gifts to skills? Well, it's very simple. The way you do it is the way plantain is transformed into boli. Right? You know boli here. Right? In the previous, I asked somebody, I said, how is it done? Somebody said fry. I was like, what? That's called dodo. Do you understand? Now, there's a commonality between them. How does plantain become boli? How does plantain become boli? Huh? You roast it. Roasting means that you are putting heat into, you are applying heat, but it's direct heat. The problem with dodo is that it is taken through a medium, all right? And you can't now take unripe plantain and now put it in dodo. That's why because of the oil, you need to take very ripe plantain. Very ripe plantain is the one you should fry. Unripe, yeah. No, just leave it there. We're not arguing about that. I am cutting soap right here, so I'm telling you. Now, but you take boli. Boli is transformed plantain, right, through the roasting, application of heat. Notice what it isn't. If you take plantain and apply roasted heat to it, when I serve it to you, I'm not serving you plantain and heat. I'm serving you a processed plantain because of the heat that has become boli. In other words, when you take your gift, what you need to put to it is something that will ultimately transform it into skill, and that is called transformative knowledge. You need to add knowledge to your gift for it to be used properly. So in other words, you need self-improvement to add to your gift. Sadly, the problem is that so many people are people that have desires. We have desires about all the things we would like to do. Well, we talked about vision applying the first one. We have already seen ourselves doing this thing and all of that, but we have desires, but we have no knowledge. Proverbs 19 verse 2 says this. Desire without knowledge is what? It's not good. How much more will the hasty miss their way? If what we need is knowledge that to add to our gifts, or what we need is self-improvement to add to our gifts, to make them the skills that people look after, then there are two things that implies. First one is this. The first one is a heart issue. The other one is a mind and a hand issue. So what's the first one? Is a heart issue. You need to be teachable. Let me back up. Remember Moses and Bezalel and Oholiab, right? So remember it says that there were people that also had skills that were given to them because they couldn't do the job alone, right? They needed other people. So you think, oh, these people just had skill, Abi, and they could just go ahead and do the thing. No, look at what it says in Exodus 36 verse 2. Really important. Exodus 35 verse 34. It says, and he has given both him, this is Moses telling the people of Israel, he has given both him, Bezalel, and Oholiab, son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan. What has he given them? Read it. The ability to do what? In other words, those people that God called to help them, before they were going to be skillful, they had abilities, but it was the teaching of the two men upon them that was going to transform that ability to gift. Look at verse 36 verse 2 again. 36 said, then Moses summoned Bezalel, Oholiab, and every skilled person to whom the Lord had given what? Ability. What was going to enable them to serve? Because the gifts are there to serve. But when they are only deployed skillfully, the only thing that was going to make that happen is when they added knowledge, when they were taught. But this presumes that these people were what? They were teachable. And this is a crucial problem because many people are not distinguishing themselves because they are just not teachable. It is such a critical asset to have for those who want to improve themselves and those who want to make an impact. But here is the problem, and can I be honest with you? Many people today, we want discussion, we don't want instruction. We want discussion, we don't want instruction. And don't hear it from me, just listen to what the Proverbs said. Proverbs 23 verse 12. Apply your heart to instruction and your ears to words of knowledge. Did you hear what he said? The issue about instruction is not connected to what you hear. The issue about instruction is connected to where your heart is. Apply your heart to what? Instruction, and your ears to what? To the words of knowledge. In other words, listen to me. Ears that receive knowledge are always connected to hearts that are prepared for instruction. If your heart's disposition is in such a way where you are not really able to receive, you are not, you like hearing things, you like to sample things here and there, but you never really get the knowledge that transforms you, there is something wrong with your heart. In other words, I want to ask, not just do you have a mentor, but are you mentorable? Are you the kind of person that submits to sound advice? Somebody, you say, oh, this person is my mentor. The person is 20 years ahead of you in terms of experience and all of that. They give you advice here. They give you advice there. You know what you say? You know what? I'll go and think about it. Go and think about it. But many times we really don't think about it. We think we have our own opinions. Maybe I can push another one. How's your reading habit? How's your reading habit? I heard that, you see, where times change, so we are no longer in the place where, books don't really appeal to people again. I ask some people, how are you reading? I listen to a number of audiobooks. I don't have a problem with audiobooks, but I can tell you what most people are doing when they're listening to audiobooks. They are doing many other things at the same time. And I'm saying this thing is a heart issue because when you are not reading, and a lot of people will use our time for something else other than reading, when you're not reading, can I tell you straight away, not only are you saying, I am self-sufficient, I don't need any improvement, you are saying something actually much deeper. You are actually, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are saying that I don't think I'm going to succeed beyond where I am. I'm not going to succeed beyond where I am. I know you say you want to succeed, but actually everything they are doing is showing that you don't want to succeed beyond. Why? Because if you believe you are going to succeed beyond where you are, you will be developing yourself in the capacity to handle that growth. When you are not developing yourself in the capacity to handle the growth that is going to come, because your capacity cannot handle that growth that is going to come now, when you are not developing, you are basically saying, I'm not going to move. I don't have the energy to move beyond where I am. And guess what happens? It never does. This is why a lot of people you meet some people like, what? You're not working in that organization again. Don't mind those stupid people. I was there. I started this organization with them. I put in my blood and sweat and tears 8 years ago. And look at how they just let me go 3 years ago. And the Bible says, when you listen to somebody tell their own story, it all seems fine until the second person comes. Go and meet the boss. You go and find out what happened. They say, yes, you put in your blood, sweat, and tears. Thank God. And your blood, sweat, and tears allowed this organization to go to this place. But you refused to actually develop yourself. You didn't want to be teachable. And so the organization grew what? Beyond you. Guys, this is a heart issue. Are you teachable? Are you willing? Because your willingness to improve has everything to do with where your heart is. Now, if you are able to solve that problem, then the second thing that the transforming knowledge does, and this one has to do with your head and your hands, is this: aim for expertise. Now, Nigeria people, we like buzzwords. We love buzzwords, especially if you want to be evasive. So, one of the buzzwords around now is fintech. So when you hear fintech, we're like, what are you doing? I do fintech. What is that? I'm still trying to figure it out. Or you hear somebody say, what are you doing now? I'm doing FX trading. I I remember you got what's the equivalent of DP? In your SSC. All right, you got the one below credit. I'm not quite sure. Huh? D. D7. All right. Yeah, means D7, not P7. All right. Or P8. But you are doing do you know what it's about? You say, man, I saw some people, they said that it was I was watching something on YouTube, and then with 5 seconds ago, one ad came in, and the guy said, stop, hold on. If you are in Nigeria or you are in Ghana, then you have, do you understand? And the guy said, he said a lot, he said we're making money. And so you entered, you got FX trading and all that. I'm like, do you, your base level, your base point, what was that? You may make just a margin of 0.001 per transaction, and you think, what is $100 going to get you? 5 pence, 5 cents. This is why a lot of people that we call I'm doing many things. You know, many people are like, hey, what are you doing now? Man, I'm into a lot of things. Those people, right? If you ask them what their business is or what their job is, do you know, they're always like this. They're not able to tell you because they don't really understand what they are doing. That's why they are so scared. If you ask them 2 or 3 questions, you will see what happens. They just unravel. That's what Proverbs 13 verse 16 is saying. It's saying, all who are prudent act with knowledge. But do you know what happens to fools? They expose their folly. If you are aiming for expertise, you have to aim to understand your business in such a way that you can concisely explain it to someone. If you cannot concisely explain what you do, then you don't really understand it. So aim for that expertise. I won't forget, it was the first place I worked in. It was a telecoms contractor. So they provided telecommunication services to large organizations. And one of the things I noticed when I got there, we don't see the MD often, right? But anytime the MD comes, most of the time, 90% of the time, there's one question you always ask. Where's Dakpo? Then you won't see him for 2 days after that. Then you see him again, you're like, where's Dakpo? 1 week after, you won't see him again, you're like, so where's Dakpo? I'm like, what is this Dakpo? Let me tell you who Dakpo was. In the organization, there's the MD. Under the MD, right, you have the HR and all of those kind of things. There's a GM for that. But there was also an overall head of the technical. Now, that overall head of the technical had 2 people that reported to him. They were GMs of the technical. One was the GM for Port Harcourt. The other one was GM for Lagos. Under those GMs in each of their places, they had heads of the different technical departments, right, that fell under their purview. Now, under one of those was Dakpo. This man always looked for Dakpo. Do you know why? Because there was no solution that was needed in that organization. When there was a hard solution at Shell, when there was a hard solution at Chevron, when nobody could figure out what it was, you know who they look for? He didn't play with Dakpo. Dakpo had all the certifications that made him better than his bosses and his peers. Dakpo knew the products that we were providing and servicing better than anyone. Dakpo was an expert, and he wasn't an Oga yet. Can you distinguish yourself in expertise in a way that says you are like the prudent that add knowledge to what they have, and not like the fool that exposes his folly? And I ask you, how are you investing in yourself? What relevant courses are you taking? When you say you're gaining experience, have you jumped from saying that you are doing recruitment to doing what they call artist management to now you are into accounting, you are doing ACCA? They're doing, no, now it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that. Gain the right experience. But sadly, here's what I think. A lot of people, I'm sorry, you think you have enough time. Too many people are spending your weekends on weekend trips. Spending so much time out in the night. The amount of time you spend on Friday night, what happens? What are you doing Saturday morning? Sleeping. Only to now go out Saturday night again. What is happening? Time is being wasted. What I'm challenging us here to do is this. Some of us, our race is not to be the best in the industry or the best in your organization. Your simple race that you just need to win at is be the best that you can be. And sadly, too many of us are underperforming. We are not optimal in the capacity that God has given us. Add the transformative knowledge so that you can have the skills that distinguish you and make you sought out after. If you do this, you will serve before kings. Amen. Amen. Second, the foundation for self-improvement. Now, some of us have heard of a guy called Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was a former basketballer who sadly died in a helicopter crash last January. And it was really such a painful thing when he died. But I have to confess, because I was a basketball fan, I didn't like Kobe the player. The truth be told. I was always against him because I was always rooting for another player or I was rooting for another team. Kobe played for one team. Now, so I wasn't a fan of Kobe the player, but I'll tell you what, after he retired, I became a huge fan of Kobe the teacher. Kobe the teacher. He taught the details and the fundamentals of basketball in ways I never understood before. I'm like, wow. But more importantly, he taught something else. He taught about the principles of what it took to really succeed. Because we will say Kobe was an enormously skilled player. He eventually became the third all-time leading scorer in basketball history, NBA history. He was an enormously skilled player. But when Kobe taught what the principle was for, the principle to really succeed, you know what he taught? Self-discipline. Self-discipline. That guy was tremendously disciplined. If you looked at his regimen, I think he used to sleep between 8 and 8:30 p.m. every day. And he'll wake up around 4 a.m. He'll go for his first workout. He'll work out till about maybe like 6. He then eventually gets showered. He showers, he gets ready. He has breakfast with his family. He actually had breakfast with his family, time for his family. He had breakfast 6:30, and then he did school runs. He was the one that did school runs, dropped his daughters in their different schools. And then after that, he will come back, attend to some business meetings before he goes for his second workout of the day, the early afternoon workout. He finishes that one. I think he has lunch with his wife. He goes and attends to some business. Then he does a third workout, I think towards the latter afternoon or early evening, only for him to then go back, now go and have dinner with his family, do another workout, and then go to bed at 8 p.m. Absolutely regimented. Now, we cannot all have maybe that regimen that he had. But here's what we can all have. We can have Kobe's discipline. But precisely, so many people who want to succeed, precisely that discipline is precisely what they don't want. Listen to what Proverbs 12 verse 1 says. I'm not going to insult anybody here, but it is what the Proverbs says. It says, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge. But whoever hates correction is stupid. I hope there are no stupid people here. Or put in a nicer way, Proverbs 15 verse 32 says, those who disregard discipline, listen to how strong it is. Those who disregard discipline, what do? Here's what's saying. With Newton said, learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. The book of Proverbs said you can say that you love yourself, but if you are not disciplined, you hate yourself. Why is it saying that? It's saying because if you don't like discipline, the ways to improve yourself, for you to achieve wonderful things that God has prepared for you, you will not achieve those things. You are the biggest barrier for yourself. So you despise yourself. It says they despise themselves. However, the one who heeds correction gains understanding. In other words, if you are trying to aim for expertise and you're adding knowledge, you know what keeps coming? If you are teachable, it keeps bringing correction into your life. The question is this: if you are not heeding that correction, it is because you are not disciplined. You won't read the books that you have bought. You won't complete the courses that you paid for. You won't have questions for your mentor the next time you guys meet. Why? Because you are not disciplined. And that's why for many leaders, when they look at people they want to employ, they look at your regiment of self-discipline. Because really what Kobe and the book of Proverbs is telling you is this: self-discipline is required to guarantee the continuous investment that's needed to make you skillful. It's required to guarantee the continuous investment that you keep putting. As I said, if you are so in discipline, you have other things to spend your time on. You won't invest in yourself, but if you are disciplined, that's what guarantees the continuous investment that eventually improves you and makes you skillful. So let's talk about three of those, of the components of self-discipline. I can talk about a whole lot more, but I just want to mention three today and how we can develop in them. 1, focus. 2, resilience. 3, dependability. Focus. I don't know if you've ever met people who, let's say 18 months ago, they have ideas, they're about to start a business, it's usually family, and they tell you, oh, come and buy, I'll deliver. I'm into hamper business now. I'm into a hamper business. And so, there's the obligatory buying of the hamper. Not only is the basket unreusable, like you pay 10K, it's like, why am I getting this kind of biscuit? I paid 10K, shouldn't I be getting, I hope I don't put myself in trouble now. Which one is the expensive milk? Pick, Abi. I don't want to, I'll disgrace myself. Okay, this is not working. Help me, somebody. Peak milk is expensive, right? Compared to 3 counts. All right. So you now have Dano, Abi. Okay. So you now, can't you guys just follow me? Just follow me. So you have 3 crown milk inside for a hamper of 10, 15,000. So at the end of the day, you look at the product is shoddy. So later, 18 months after, you hear that the business has closed down. Or you hear that that person was fired. Why were they fired? It was because they were shoddy in their business. Why did the business close down? It was because they weren't giving you an excellent product. And Proverbs tells you very simply that one who is slack in his work is brother to the one that destroys. The thing came down because they were slack in their work. It was shoddy, their products and their services. You said that you are trying to provide, I don't know, maybe some kind of telecoms, whatever, but your customer service people constantly lose their temper. And you do nothing about it. Why? Because they are slack in what they do. But let me tell you where slackness comes from. Slackness is a direct result of lack of focus. It is the ability to want to do things too quickly. You know when you just say, hey, this document, now just send it. But look at the way it's written. You are not making your argument. Just send it now. Maybe we sent it. We want to just achieve things too quickly. We are not looking at the pain of actually looking at the thing very well to ensure what is done is right. Notice, I love this one, probably my favorite one in all of them. Proverbs 27 verse 23. It says, be careful, be sure to know the condition of your flocks. That is, if somebody asks you, let's say you are a shepherd, they say, how are your sheep doing? For some people, you know what they'll say? They are fine. They are fine. We thank God if you're a Christian. But somebody else that has been careful to know the condition of his sheep, you say, oh, it depends. So the group A, they have spots and there's a little bit of an infection issue. Group B, actually, they are not producing as well as we would like to. Group C, actually, they are doing very well, and actually they are reproducing, and this is the one that is most tasty. What does he know? He knows the condition of his flocks. When we have focus, what is focus? Focus is giving concentrated attention to, along with the resolve for accomplishing a certain goal without easily being distracted. Giving concentrated attention to, along with the resolve for accomplishing a certain goal without being easily distracted. The problem we have a lot is, what's the elephant in the room? We are too easily distracted. And it's not social media's fault, it's your fault. It really is. There will always be things to distract us. Here's the problem. When you lose focus, you are not giving concentrated attention to something. You don't have the resolve to accomplish the goal. Later in verse 24, listen to what he then says. After he says, know the condition of your flocks. Or before that, so how do you, let me just say how you develop focus. Kobe says something, I won't forget this. He says, the biggest mistake we make in life is thinking we have time. We think we have time. You are distracted, like, I'll finish that thing tomorrow. Okay, somebody just calls you, says, hey, how far? This person is in town. Can we go out? You have something that you had already said you are going to do and you are going to deliver. Now, the deadline was tomorrow. You have time today. But if you submitted today, you said that you plan to read tomorrow. So all of a sudden now, somebody has now called you. I say, it would be nice to hang out. And maybe the deadline is tomorrow. What have you sacrificed? You have sacrificed reading time. But when you are focused, when you know that if I don't read this thing today, if I don't develop, the chances are that I will not be able to do the exam. At this point, we think we have enough time, and we don't. People with the mindset of we don't have enough time are people that are usually focused. We have expiry dates to our achievements. And can I say to some of us, you are not as young as you think you are. And it's not just Kobe that's saying it. After he says that, give careful attention to your flocks. Notice what he says after. For riches do not endure forever. Guys, what I'm saying is this. We have to have a sense of urgency. I am not saying that your time has passed because you made one mistake. I am not saying your time has passed because you are 33. But I am saying that you do need a sense of urgency to keep you focused so that you will not be distracted. If you do this, it creates a platform for you to continue to invest in the knowledge that gives you skills that distinguish you. Am I talking to someone? Second, resilience. They say ease of doing business in Lagos is one of the lowest in the global cities of the world. We don't need somebody to give us a report to tell us that we will experience it, right? So you're about to start a business, and then that person that had promised to invest, all of a sudden they're not doing it again. Or you started a thriving logistic business, and all of a sudden a government policy has just shut the whole thing down. Or the wonderful boss that was always developing you, investing in you, has left to another place. Maybe they left to Canada, and now you don't like the boss that you have here. One setback over another. And what do these setbacks do eventually to us? They crush us. They make us paralyzed. You just feel like giving up. I'm probably never going to achieve this thing. What do you need at that point? You know rubber band that children wear? You know rubber band? That children that nowadays we don't have cash. That was one of the most important commodities if you went to Newi or Aba, right? Because there was counting. That rubber band, if you take that rubber band and you expand it, right? If you leave it, what's going to happen? It comes back together. Because it's very resilient. You see, resilience is the capacity to quickly recover from difficulties. The capacity to quickly recover from difficulties. And it's an asset that every employer is looking for. And if you're a business owner, if you're a ministry leader, if you're an NGO leader, you always need, especially in places like this, because in Lagos, the unexpected is the only predictable thing that will always happen. Expect the what? So if you are always giving to, I didn't expect this thing, I can't now, nothing is going to happen to me again. Here's the problem. Those conditions are working for you, and they're also working for your clients, and they're also working for your bosses. So if your boss is also going through the same thing and he's still trying to help himself, if you are now doing that, if he has to now start midwifing you to be able to get you to be resilient, that's taking out of his own time to get himself to be resilient. When they find somebody that is particularly resilient, they know that they have time to work on themselves. Do you get what I'm saying? It becomes an asset to be resilient. So how can you be resilient? Let me give you 3 things from Proverbs 18, verse 14. It's one thing, but actually you can apply it in 3 ways. Proverbs 18:14, is it there? It says, the human spirit can endure in sickness, but a crushed spirit who can bear? Notice what it has acknowledged. It has acknowledged that we can be crushed in spirit. All right? It says the crushed spirit who can bear. In other words, the Bible doesn't just say, fix yourself up. It acknowledges where that we can be crushed. But also the Bible tells you truths that you have actually overlooked. What is it? It says the human spirit can what? Endure. We underestimate our ability to endure. My little son, Kitimilen, my children wake up very early. So usually by 6:30, he will be telling people, he say, I'm so hungry, if I don't get food now, I'm going to die. That's what he says. I'm going to die. That's how he feels. But according to science, actually, he probably can go without food for close to 7 days without dying. We actually underestimate our capacity to endure things. The Bible here says that you can endure. Some of you have been through so many difficult circumstances, emotionally, mentally, that at the point you are going through it, you were like, there's no way I can recover. Here you are now giving advice and comfort to other people. You can endure. So the 3 ways you apply this truth about endurance is the first thing, you have to apply it mentally, you have to apply it spiritually, you have to apply it communally. First, mentally. Whenever you are in a difficult situation, acknowledge where you are. This is painful, but tell yourself, I can endure this. I can endure this. This is where I feel at this moment. This whole business crashing is making me feel terrible. This job that I've lost is making me feel whatever. I don't know how, but I can endure this. Tell yourself. The Bible is filled in the Psalms with people speaking to themselves. When it says, my soul, praise the Lord. Now tell yourself, my soul or my spirit, you can endure this. Amen. Second is, because you can't do it on your own, it was God that actually wrote this. Pray it back to God. Say, God, you said this in your word that I can endure this. If you don't give me the power, I don't think I can. Give me the power. You pray to God, but you pray it in a way that is meditative. You see, when you are praying to God and you are saying it over and over again, eventually that truth starts to sink into your spirit. And then the third thing, Proverbs 17:17 says, while a friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for the time of adversity or a day of adversity. In other words, you need to surround yourself with people that reinforce that enduring spirit and capability in you. Never try to do things on your own. This is why being a Christian and being in a church is absolutely important. Because there, many times when we are brought down, when it says that though there is a casting down, there shall be a lifting up, many times that lifting up is actually people helping you, lifting you up. Are you getting my point? This is how you build resilience. Third, dependability. Dependability. Kobe Bryant, I said, at some point became the third highest scoring leader in the NBA history. Now he's fourth now because LeBron James has eclipsed him. But when Kobe became third, there were only two people ahead of him. The number one, and still number one, is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. But there was a second guy, and he's still number two till today. His name was Karl Malone. Now, Karl Malone's nickname, do you know what he was? He was called the mailman. Do you know why he was called the mailman? Because whenever you gave him the ball, he always delivered. He would deliver the mail. Are you that kind of person? My wife and I had somebody that worked for us, and every time we gave her instruction, we say, go and help us get this thing. Then as she's going to say, is this thing we say you should help us get? Then as she goes further, we now say, is this one not that one? Can I tell you, if your boss is not telling you, your client is not telling you whether they feel that you're dependable, can I give you a secret as to how you will know? If they always send you reminders, you are not dependable. If they send you reminders, if they sent you an email and they said, we are meant to meet at this point, then later they now say, a gentle reminder. Sometimes they didn't send that email to all the people that they sent. It was just to you. How many of you received that? Because you see, we underestimate how important it is working with people that are dependable. Open to Proverbs, just watch this one. This is really nice. Proverbs 25, verse 13. It says, like a snow-cold drink at harvest time. Harvest time is hot. It's not raining at harvest. You know how hot Lagos is, right? Anytime you're in the heat, what are you looking for? If you get to someone's house, just give me what? And it's because ordinary water will be a problem. When you take the cold water, how do you feel? You say, it's refreshing. It says, that is how a trustworthy messenger is to the one who sends him. He refreshes the spirit of his master. Many of us, we don't refresh. We make our bosses thirsty. You see, there's nothing more refreshing than I just say, Kunle, I have this meeting and it's about these three things. Please help me put something together, a 2-page document together. Notice that if I said that, then 2 days after, Kunle, how about that document? Please don't forget to. Kunle, please, I hope that document, make sure you have it by Thursday. And then I now say, Kunle, when you've done it, please send it to me. And then you send this to you, then you do it like, Kunle, now how did you do this thing like this? Now we are going to rewrite it. Imagine I gave him that instruction, and the next time I spoke to Kunle was at that meeting. He just brought it there. What does that mean? He is utterly dependable. Listen, dependability is the peak of trust. It's the peak of usefulness and trust. That's why he called him, he said, a trustworthy word, messenger. People that are dependable are very hard to find, but they are very easy to, irreplaceable. You told your client said, help me do this contract at this point. And please deliver at 10 o'clock, it's really important. And then you came at 12:30. And then when he starts talking, like, what's wrong with you now? Did I not bring it? They've logged in their minds. Okay, so you think those 2.5 hours don't mean anything to me? Can't you be the person that says, I will come at 9:30? Because I can assure you, they are always making mental notes about you. I tell people here, I don't even make it a people come in, if I see you in church, wonderful. If I see you at 10:30 when we're meant to start at 9:45, I'll smile with you. But I've logged it. Can I depend on this person? I'm telling you that your leaders, your bosses, your clients, they always log this thing. Aim to be somebody that always delivers. Aim to be a male woman or a male man. Amen. And the way you do that, Jesus, very quickly to finish this, Jesus says this in Luke 16, verse 10 and 11. Very, very wonderful. He says, Luke 16, 10 and 11. Oh, you don't have it. He says, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with what? Much. And whoever is dishonest with very little will also be dishonest with. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? In other words, how do you build dependability in a way that distinguishes you from every other person? Be faithful with the small thing they've given you. That small place that they've told you to do it constantly well. Let everybody know that, man, the way this person behaves on this thing, it will transfer you. They will say, they will give you more. Jesus says, they will give you more responsibility and in turn more investment. You started with little, but now you have much. Aim to be dependable. So guys, what I'm trying to say here is that this self-discipline becomes the foundation upon which your skills can then be built. If you don't have self-discipline, you will be pursuing the knowledge that gives you skills, but it will not lead to anything. And at worst, you won't even pursue it. Do you want to be that kind of person? Because those are the kind of people that will thrive in very, very difficult circumstances. Finally, third point. Someone will say, third point, which is the freedom for self-improvement. Someone will say, after listening to all of these things, yeah, they may sound okay and all of that, but now I actually feel terrible. You aim for this thing to be helpful, but actually it is unhelpful. Why? Because I feel like I'm trying, but the thing is I'm not as talented as the people around me. I am not gifted. And so now you've spoken about all of these things. It's only made me look at myself and I feel less valuable than other more talented people. And therefore, I feel less skillful. I can't be useful. And maybe somebody else is saying something like this. I have tried to be disciplined. I've I've set alarm. I snooze all the time. I don't even know why I snooze. I think it's the devil. I'm trying. But it's just not working. And each time I fail at self-discipline, I also feel less valuable than others. And I want to say, I hear you and hear the language of what you are saying. It is really not the language of whether or not you are good at this. It's something deeper. You are saying that you've made your abilities, the measure of your abilities, the measure of your worth. That is, because I don't have this thing, because I am not this skillful, I actually feel I am less valuable. What you need is not to just get better. What you need is to regain your worth. Can I tell somebody here, with all that I have said, please don't make this mistake. Your worth is not in your gift or your skill. Your abilities are not the measure of your worth. Because such kind of thinking can make successful people arrogant, and it can make those that are failing at it feel less valuable, as you say you're feeling now. But notice what God does when He creates us. Even though He gives us gifts at our creation, where have you seen a baby applying for a job? He does it. He gives us our infinite worth before we get the time to prove it through the talents He has given us. In other words, you are not worthy. You don't have worth because of the utilization of your talents. You have worth because God has created you in His image. He gave you your worth before He says prove it through your skills. Are you getting what I'm saying? But some of us will say, well, that's not enough. I still feel that growth has something to do with worth. And I want to say to you, you have a bigger problem. And I know what it is, I think. But the problem is not growth in skill and discipline. Your problem is growth in God. And you are lacking severely in this. In fact, many of us, the problem is that because we have departed away from God, because we are lost away from God, and we are not getting the security that God gives us, the value, the infinite worth that He gives us by being close to Him, you are looking to achieve that growth, you're looking to achieve that value in your discipline and your skills, and they can never do that for you. And if you go with that same attitude to try to grow, you will find out that you are in bondage, not freedom. You need to regain your worth. But if you say, I need merit, well, I think there's a place you can get it. I need something that shows that I'm growing to be able to gain my worth. There's somewhere you can get it, but it's not with yourself. You see, God came down from heaven in the person of Jesus Christ. And this is such a mystery that God becomes a human being. And then at some point when Jesus and his mom and his dad went to the temple in Jerusalem and they were meant to be returning back to Nazareth, after 3 days they didn't find Jesus. They went back to find him in a temple. What was Jesus doing? He says that he was sitting at the feet of who? Of the teachers. And you say, well, was he teaching them because he was God that knew everything? What was he doing? He was listening. Jesus himself was listening. And he was showing us the pattern that to listen and to be asking questions was the pattern for growth. Now you may be putting that according to your own standard and say, well, I'm not growing. But look at this Jesus. He never faltered in his growth. So much so that when we fail, maybe you are meeting your own standards because your standards are low. But are you meeting God's standard? Here he says this Jesus, as he grew, he not only found favor in the standards of men, he found favor what? With God. And he continued to grow and he continued to learn. So much so that his learning, he learned obedience through the things he suffered, Hebrews chapter 5 verse 8. And this led ultimately to his perfection. If you are looking for a human being with merit to measure your worth by, don't look at yourself, look at the person of Jesus. Because ultimately this learning took him to the cross. This learning took him to his death. And it is upon that, he then says, upon that learning, that perfect learning, that perfect merit, that he offers us what? Eternal salvation. In other words, here's what I'm saying, and don't miss this. When you want to measure your worth, if you put your faith in Jesus Christ, when God looks at his standard, he doesn't look at you, he looks at Jesus Christ. He sees your worth not in what you do, he sees your worth in the person of Jesus Christ. And on account of that, you don't have to prove your worth before God. And if you don't have to prove your worth before God, stop trying to prove your worth before men. The reason why we grow in skill and the reason why we grow in development is not to gain our worth. It is to demonstrate that we who are worthy in Jesus Christ are trying to make ourselves better in the calling that God has called us to. When you find your worth in Jesus, you have the freedom from the pressure that tells you that, oh, if only I can, maybe I'm a singer, if only I can just release an album that actually gets this amount of streams. Or maybe I'm a comedian and if only I can just get these gigs. All of these things are telling you to prove your worth. But if you say, my worth is in Jesus, then you can say, I then, on account of Jesus, what Jesus did, I want to be a better person so that I can be who God has called me to be. Only Jesus gives you that freedom to pursue growth without being crushed by it. I don't know if there's somebody here who needs to hear that is constantly measuring your worth by the things that you know. Please stop. Jesus is here. Jesus is calling you. He wants to give you of himself. He has merited what you couldn't merit, so that now you could aim to get better, not for merit, but to be able to serve God and serve others better. Let us rise up and pray.